Welcome to MEC's Backcountry 101. We're just going to take a few minutes and go over kind of all the basics and intro into what you would need to have a great time going out camping during the winter. A lot of people think because it's cold and snowy there's not a lot to do outside, but with the right gear you can have lots of fun and stay safe and be warm during these winter months when it's really cold outside. So we can start with shelters. So there's multiple different ways to camp while you're outside. Something as simple as like you can go to like Spruce Woods and go stay in a cabin there. You can ski in, hike in, snowshoe in. They have cabins there that you can rent or stay in. That's a pretty simple intro to that. Then the next level from that would probably be something like using a tent. So tents are a little heavier to carry with you, but there's a freestanding type of shelter. You can set it up almost anywhere, and it will give you shelter from the elements. And then from there we could look at things like building quinzees, igloos, snow caves. That would, of course, depend on how much snow you have. Building things like quinzees takes a little more time and prep and set up. So they're an awesome way to camp, an easy thing to set up as well, as long as you do it correctly, very safe. And a big upside to them is you don't have to carry anything with you. You just have to pile up a bunch of snow when you get to your destination. And then we also have things like bivy sacks, which are super lightweight. You can carry them on your back, very easy. They're not heavy, and it's pretty much just a liner that goes around your sleeping bag and around yourself to protect you from the snow and the wind and separate the snow from your body so you're not getting wet. And then, so once you have your shelter decided, whether you're going to be sleeping in a snow cave, a quinzee, or whatever it is, what you're going to sleep in is very important as well. So we have lots of different types of sleeping bags. We have really cold weather sleeping bags that are meant for like minus 30 when you're places where it's really cold, and we have some that are a little bit lighter, not as intended for as cold weather. A good rule of thumb when it comes to picking a sleeping bag for cold weather camping is when you're planning your trip, find the temperature or what the predicted weather is. So if the temperature rating is going to be minus 20, try and find a sleeping bag that is rated minus 25. So add an extra 5 degrees to your sleeping bag in case it does drop farther than you expected. You still have that safety barrier and you won't be shivering all night. When it comes to sleeping bags, there's kind of two different main types. There's synthetic fill or down fill, and they both have pros and cons to each. Synthetic is heavier, and it doesn't pack as small, but it's cheaper, but it will be better for you. If it does get wet, it retains its heat more when it is wet. Down is a lot lighter and packable. It packs really small and light, but it is more expensive, and if it does get wet, it's not going to keep you as warm at night, or you'll need to find a way to dry that out. So there's pros and cons to each. Definitely when you're going in to get a sleeping bag, wherever it may be, talk to whoever is there and they can give you some advice. Do some research yourself as well. As important as a sleeping bag is, what you're sleeping on as well is just as important. Keeping that separation from you and the ground is going to help a lot when you sleep at night, not only for comfort, but for heat as well. We lose a lot of heat through conduction. So when you're sleeping, you're losing a lot of heat to the ground. So having a good mattress or sleeping pad under you is very important. If you're doing winter camping, you want something that has an R value of 4 or more. This means it's insulated, it's going to reflect heat back into your body and keep the cold air down at the ground. So you want to find something that is going to be warm, and depending on your activity, if you're hiking or if you're snow machining, whatever it is, something that's going to suit your needs. Something like this style of sleeping pad, you can see it packs down very small. So if you're doing anything where you're skiing or hiking, where you're carrying the weight on your back, you're going to want something that packs down nice and small so that you have lots of room in your bag for your clothes and your food and everything else. So packability is very important when it comes to backcountry camping. All right, so here we have a few different types of footwear. As important as your sleeping systems and your shelter, having something that's going to keep your feet warm is very important for a lot of activities. It's going to be your mode of transportation, whether that's skiing or snowshoeing or hiking. So we have a few different styles of boots. These kind of boots here would be awesome for like snowshoeing. They're a little bit lighter. They have a nice flexibility. They're comfortable. Same with these, just a few different styles and fits, different brands fit differently. So when you're finding a pair of boots, you want to find something that's going to be comfortable and warm and fit your feet well. You want something that's comfortable, especially if you're spending all day on your feet. And then these style of boots here, more for like if you're going out ice fishing or you're going to go snow machine somewhere and camp there. They're big and beefy and warm because you won't be doing a lot of activity, so you won't be moving and the blood won't be circulating as much. So when you're doing an activity like that, you want something that's going to be warm. It is cumbersome, so you wouldn't want to hike in these all day. But if you're doing a lot of standing around, this is kind of the boot you'd want to go with. It's going to keep you nice and warm when you're standing around. With all of these boots, you want to have them dry by morning. So if no matter what you're doing during the day, your feet will most likely sweat a little bit. So even if you think your feet don't sweat, your boots most likely will be damp inside. So every night, if it is possible, dry them out, put them over a register, because having dry boots in the morning is going to make your experience a lot better versus having to wake up, put on cold boots, and then your feet get cold right away. I grabbed these. These are just a nice little treat for yourself if you're going somewhere where you're hiking all day or you have big heavy boots on or ski boots. When you get to your cabin or your shelter or whatever, just taking off your big heavy boots and throwing on a pair of like these kind of boots. They're just down, they're super light, they're warm. You can walk outside a little bit in them, but it's just like, it's more of just a nice comfort thing if you have space for them, or you can bring them. As important as your boots are, pairing them with a great pair of socks is also important. Any heavy-duty sock that we'd be looking at, they are going to be wool. Wool is the warmest material that we do sell. We have regular wool and merino wool. Merino wool is a little more comfortable and less itchy, but wool does a very good job of keeping your feet warm. If they get wet or if they're sweating, it's going to pull that moisture away from your foot to keep your foot feeling dry. And an awesome thing about wool is it takes a long time to start smelling, so you can wear wool for like a couple days and hopefully your trip mates don't realize that you've been wearing the same pair of socks. If you have issues with getting like itchy feet when wearing wool, pairing them with like a very thin polyester liner is a really good option, because then you can still have your nice warm wool socks, but having this underneath isn't going to get your feet all itchy. And then we will talk about some clothes and the layering systems. Yeah. Okay, so here we have a few different types of clothing. When it comes to backcountry, whether it's in the summer or the winter or the fall, layering is a huge concept that is pushed now, and it's just for comfort and ease, and being comfortable in the backcountry is very important. So a lot of people in the winter when it's cold, buying a big jacket is awesome. Like, it's going to keep you warm, but the downside to something like this is it's heavy. And when you have a big jacket on like this and you're doing lots of activity, you're going to get warm really quickly, and you can't really take it off because then you'll be really cold because it's still cold outside. You can open a zipper, that works pretty good. So having a big jacket like this is kind of like having the thermostat on all the way or off, because if it's too hot, you want to take it off. So the layering concept is like, you have your base layer, which is like your long johns and your top. You want it to fit nice and snug against your skin, not too tight like spandex, but snug so that it is in contact, and that is going to pull the moisture away from your body and move it to the outer layers of your clothing to keep you feeling dry. So you have your base layers, and then next to that you would have your insulation layers, which you can have for pants or tops, but this is just mainly to provide heat for your body, so to keep you warm when it's cold. And there's two main types of insulation. There's synthetic or a fleece. So a lot of people have fleece jackets. You wear it, and so we have fleece pants as well. Very warm. They're warm when they're wet. They don't pack as small. And then we have down, which would be another option. Packs really small. It's really light. Very similar to the sleeping bags. It's not as good when it's wet, but packability is a huge thing when it comes to down. And then, so after your insulation layer, we have our shell layer. And the shell layer doesn't provide any warmth, but it blocks wind, rain, and snow. So this is what's going to protect your insulation layer from the elements. We have hard shells like this for pants and jackets, and then you have a soft shell. A little bit different material, but it blocks the wind and the rain and the snow, keeping your insulation dry so that it provides you warmth. All big jackets are similar. They have something that's going to block the wind and the rain, and then you have your insulation, but it's all kind of glued together. Versus this style of layering, if it gets too hot, you can take one layer on. If it gets colder, you can put another one on. You can unzip, vent, whatever you need to. So that's clothing. From clothing, we're going to head downstairs and talk about some cooking systems and safety and first aid. Cooking is very important when it comes to being in the backcountry, especially in the winter. Your body is going to burn upwards of 5,000 calories if you're hiking or skiing, whatever it is. So you need to replenish those to help you stay warm even when you're sleeping. Having lots of calories in you is going to make the trip more enjoyable. So we have lots of things for cooking. Like, we have all kinds of pot sets that are, everything is kind of crammed down into a pot set. You got cups, plates, pots, pans, so it's, it can be very packable, very light. So you have your pots and stuff, but you need something to cook on. A lot of them you can cook on over open fire, but a lot of places don't allow you to have an open fire, especially if you're in a provincial park or a national park like that. So some sort of stove is a great option to that. We have two types of cooking stoves. One that will run on white gas. White gas is very good for in the winter because it does not freeze, or you don't lose any pressure when it comes to cooking in the winter. We also do have stoves that are a lot smaller and packable that would screw onto a canister. Downside to a canister is when it gets quite cold, the gas goes from being a gas state to a liquid, so it's very hard to get, you know, the bottom quarter of that gas into burning your stove. So you're carrying a lot of weight for not getting a lot of pressure and cooking back. When it comes to things like water, if you're somewheres where you can find access to running water, like a stream, you know, digging a hole in the lake is really important, because when it comes to making snow and boiling snow to make water, you need 10 liters of snow to make 1 liter of water. So it's very inefficient to just constantly be boiling snow, because you're going to burn through your fuel really quickly, especially if you're out way back in the backcountry where you don't have access to more. Once you have water, still purifying it is very important. Even if you think it's minus 30 and the water has been frozen, it still needs to be purified. So when it comes to water purification, there's a few different types. There is a UV ray type of water purification. It's actually the type that is used for our city water and stuff, using ultraviolet lights to kill bacteria and viruses, which is really awesome. It's very small and packable, and it just runs on batteries. So very easy, good method, works in all temperatures as long as your batteries are good. Then we have a pump system, which you pump the water through a filter, and that filters out all the bacteria. Downside to something like this is it's a little heavier, and it only filters out bacteria. It does not get viruses. Viruses are too small and they would go through the filter. Here in Canada, that's not a huge issue with viruses. If you were traveling to a more warm climate country, that would be more of an issue. And the last type would be chemical, or like water tablets. They kill both bacteria and viruses, which is awesome. But as soon as it goes around 4 degrees, the time for this to work in water like quadruples. It goes from being like half an hour to like 2 hours for the tablets to take effect and purify your water. So something like this, you have to be very proactive, have your water ready, have the tablets in there long before you need to drink water. If you're needing water quickly, something like this is going to work a lot better, because it's instant, it works in 90 seconds, and you have clean water to drink. As important as all of this cooking and stuff is, safety gear is probably the #1 thing you should make space for in your bag. Having a map and a compass is very important. Always telling someone where you're going. Having a backup plan if there's an injury, a way to contact emergency services if something happens. But mapping out your route, leaving it with a friend or a spouse who can, if you do not return in your allotted time, can then let the authorities know when a search can begin. Fire, having the ability to start fire is very important. If you were to fall into the water, start getting really cold, or if your stoves didn't work, even in a national park, they're going to let you light a fire if something happens when it comes to survival. I would suggest having 2 different types of fire starting, because if something happens to this, you lose it or it breaks, at least you still have a backup, or you lose these, you have a backup here. Having something like a med kit is very important. Even a small cut in the backcountry can cause a lot of issues if it gets infected, or if it's on your hand where you can't use that hand if you don't have it bandaged properly. So carrying even a small med kit with you is very important, with gauze and antibiotics and things like that. And I usually, especially in the winter, I always bring something like a survival blanket. So if you lose your sleeping bag, it gets wet, or something happens, at least you have something small and packable that can provide some heat if something were to happen, and you will not get hypothermia or potentially anything worse than that. So just having contingency plans, being prepared, having some survival stuff with you is very important. And even for your first time to practice winter camping, just go in your backyard, build a snow shelter, do it where it's safe, where if something happens in the middle of the night where you start getting really cold, you can go into the house, or you can go to your car and start the car and warm up. And as you get more experience, you can go farther out, go with friends who know what they're doing, especially when it comes to winter camping, you have to be very, very careful. But that pretty much wraps up our Backcountry 101. We do have these sessions fairly regular, but for more information on our events, you can check out events.mec.ca.